In the kitchen where morning sunlight streamed through the window, Linda Wilson was busy preparing breakfast. While dripping pancake batter, she occasionally glanced out the window. It was a typical Saturday, time for her 8-year-old son Michael to return from his Little League morning practice. On the small balcony of her apartment in the quiet Phoenix suburbs, herbs that she had planted with her son over the weekend were growing in the gentle spring sunshine. As the sweet aroma from the frying pan filled the room, she heard the front door open. "I'm home." Michael burst in with his sweat glistening, his green eyes sparkling in the morning light. His baseball uniform was dirty with mud, and he was carefully clutching his glove. His smile, inherited from his father, warmed Linda's heart. "Welcome back. Once you've washed your hands, there are fresh pancakes waiting." On the kitchen counter, Michael's favorite maple syrup and fresh blueberries were ready. The small succulent plant on the windowsill above the sink was her solace during her busy days as a real estate agent. "Yay! Oh, Mom," Michael suddenly lowered his voice as if remembering something. "Can I see Dad today?" Linda paused for a moment. "I'm sorry, honey. Dad has to work today." Seeing her son's expression cloud over, Linda felt her chest tighten. 2 years since the divorce. Her work in real estate and her ex-husband's job as a sales manager at PharmaCorp. Small misunderstandings that began with their busy schedules gradually grew into an unbridgeable gap. Still, for Michael's sake, they chose an amicable separation and maintained a cooperative relationship. Visitation twice a month. James, her ex-husband, always took his time with Michael seriously, practicing baseball, going to movies, making the most of their limited time together. Having breakfast at the local Denny's on holidays had become their tradition. When Michael had baseball games, James would make time between his busy work schedule to come and cheer him on. Whenever she saw him being such a good father, Linda felt mixed emotions but reminded herself that she had made the right choice for her son. However, recently, even those precious times had begun to change. "Hey, Michael," Linda spoke gently as she placed the pancakes in front of her son. "Dad has something important to tell you." "Something important?" "Yes. Dad is going to marry Catherine." Michael silently gripped his fork. Catherine worked in the HR department at PharmaCorp where James worked. They had gone out to eat together a few times. Always perfectly made up and dressed in luxury brands, she had been kind to Michael. But sometimes, Linda sensed something behind that smile. "Oh, okay." Michael's voice was small. On the living room wall hung a photo from last Father's Day. The image of Michael smiling with James at the baseball field gleamed softly in the morning light. "We haven't seen Dad much lately. I've been busy with work, but I'll make it up to you, I promise." Last week during their visit, James had said those words while patting Michael's head. The hesitation in his voice might have been something only a mother could sense. After breakfast, while clearing the dishes, Michael suddenly said, "Hey Mom, I want to go to the Grand Canyon again, like I did with Dad." Linda put down the dishes and turned to her son. She vividly remembered how Michael's eyes had sparkled when he returned from the Grand Canyon trip James had taken him on last summer. The photos in their album showed father and son against the backdrop of the majestic canyon. Those memories must be supporting her son's heart now. "Well, Why don't we go during the next break? Really? Yes. I've always wanted to go too. Seeing Michael's face light up again, Linda made an internal decision. She immediately requested 3 days off from work and reserved a rental car. She also booked accommodations through Expedia. Though her monthly income of $4,500 didn't allow for much luxury, she didn't mind dipping into her savings for her son's smile. Now, as they were finding their way to a new family dynamic, protecting her son's smile was what mattered most to her. Do what you can, the best you can, she told herself as she began preparing for the trip. The clear Arizona sky enveloped the suburban neighborhood of Phoenix. At 7 a.m. on Saturday, 2 rental cars were already parked in the lot of Linda's apartment complex. After careful consideration, she had reserved a Toyota Camry and a backup car for emergencies. Her experience as a real estate agent had taught her to always plan with contingencies in mind. "Michael, did you forget anything?" Linda called out while loading a cooler into the back seat. "I'm good." Michael clutched his new Lego backpack to his chest, his eyes sparkling. "Hey Mom, did you make lunch?" "Yes, I made your favorite turkey sandwiches. And I packed plenty of snacks too." The car body, wet with morning dew, gleamed softly in the sunlight. Linda sat in the driver's seat and carefully adjusted the rear-view mirror. Though confident in her driving skills, she knew she needed to be extra careful for such a long journey. "Did you fasten your seatbelt properly?" "Yes." Michael's cheerful reply came from the back seat. The car began to move slowly. The herbs planted on the apartment's small balcony seemed to wave goodbye as they swayed in the breeze. The Phoenix cityscape gradually gave way to suburban scenery. Heading north on Interstate 17, the desert's characteristic reddish-brown earth stretched out before them, with occasional clusters of cacti catching their eye. Inside the car, the scent of the new vehicle mingled with the sweet aroma of Michael's snacks. "Mom, I came through here with Dad." Michael suddenly exclaimed. "Oh really, did you have fun?" "Yes. Dad bought me ice cream. At that gas station over there." Linda smiled. Indeed, James had always been good at those thoughtful little gestures. That hadn't changed even after the divorce. They were approaching the Anthem area. Still more than halfway to go before reaching the Grand Canyon. Linda checked the gas gauge just to be safe. Suddenly, the car body shook violently, and the steering wheel began to vibrate unnaturally. A small cry came from the back seat. "Michael, are you okay?" Linda gripped the steering wheel firmly while checking on her son in the rearview mirror. "Yes." Michael's voice was trembling. The strange noise grew louder. A metallic sound resonated from the tire. Linda felt her spine freeze. This was clearly not a normal sound. "It's okay, Mom will handle this." While maintaining her composure, Linda slowly applied the brakes and turned on the hazard lights. Fortunately, this section had a wide shoulder with plenty of space for an emergency stop. After bringing the car to a complete stop, she could clearly hear the abnormal sound from the front tire. As she got out of the driver's seat to check the tire, a building caught her eye. "It's okay, I can see an auto repair shop over there." Across the road stood an auto repair shop with an old sign. The words, Brown's Auto Repair, were faded from years of sun exposure but somehow exuded trustworthiness. "Mom, aren't you scared?" Michael's voice was anxious. "Don't worry, Mom will protect you," Linda smiled at her son. When she waved toward the repair shop, a man in work clothes noticed and approached. He had graying hair and a face lined with experience, yet his expression was warm and reassuring. "I'm Tom Brown," the man introduced himself and immediately began examining the tire. His movements showed clear expertise. The inside of the shop was kept clean, with tools neatly arranged. Various certificates adorned the walls, and in one corner, a younger mechanic who appeared to be his son was working. The space had the warmth of a family-run business. Tom carefully inspected the tire. His expression gradually became more serious. Suddenly, he stopped working. His face had turned pale. Tom stood up and said with a trembling voice, "I'm calling the police right away." "What? Why?" Linda's heart jumped. This isn't a normal flat tire. Someone deliberately tampered with it. Tom's voice was low but carried definite weight. A chill ran down Linda's spine. Lowering his voice so Michael couldn't hear, Tom continued. "There's an extremely sophisticated device planted inside the tire. This is no coincidence. In a few hours, probably in the middle of the highway, there would have been a fatal accident." Linda was speechless. At that moment, a young mechanic ran out from the shop's office. "I called the police. Detective Sarah Martinez from Phoenix PD is on her way." Tom sighed deeply and turned to Linda. "Detective Martinez is an acquaintance of mine. One of the most trustworthy detectives in this city. Until she arrives, it's best not to tell your son anything." Linda unconsciously looked toward Michael, who wore an anxious expression in the back seat. The spring breeze gently swayed the shop's old sign. A black Ford Explorer from the Phoenix Police Department smoothly pulled into the parking lot of Brown's Auto Repair. Detective Sarah Martinez stepped out of the driver's seat and immediately began observing the scene. She first received a situation briefing from Tom Brown. The aroma of coffee brought by the young mechanic wafted through the tense air. Tom began speaking in a hushed voice. "The device planted inside the tire is more sophisticated than anything I've seen in my 30 years of experience. This is no mere prank." Sarah nodded while taking notes. Her eyes held a gleam suggesting several hypotheses were already forming. "The child?" Sarah inquired with a glance at Linda. "He's playing in the shop's break room," Linda answered softly. Though slightly nervous, Michael was engrossed in building Legos with the young mechanic. "I understand." Sarah took a deep breath and turned to Linda. "Now, let me ask you a few questions. Have there been any suspicious incidents recently? Even something minor would help." Linda searched her memory. There had been things that felt off in her daily life. But maybe she just hadn't recognized them as suspicious. Come to think of it. Linda furrowed her brow. "Last week, there was an unfamiliar envelope in my mailbox. Inside were photos of Michael and me, but I thought it was just someone's mistake." Sarah's expression tightened. "Do you still have that envelope?" "Yes, I kept it just in case. It could be crucial evidence," Sarah chose her words carefully. If possible, I'd like our forensics team to examine it. Just then, the young mechanic came running from the shop's office. We've got the dashcam footage. The footage showed a black minivan approaching late last night. In the darkness, a person got out of the driver's seat and walked around Linda's car with practiced movements. This license plate. Sarah narrowed her eyes. Let me check this. While Sarah called headquarters on her cell phone, Linda stared at her car. If they hadn't stopped at the repair shop, what would have happened? The mere thought sent chills down her spine. Sarah hung up and spoke. This license plate matches your ex-fiancé's car. Catherine? Linda's voice trembled. But why? Sarah silently opened her laptop. The screen displayed a history of social media posts. She seems to have been checking your Facebook daily. She even liked your post yesterday. But she always liked my posts. Linda nearly collapsed where she stood. Catherine, the perfect woman working in HR at Pharmacorp. Linda had felt something off about her since their first meeting. But she never imagined it would go this far. She was monitoring your social media posts constantly, Sarah explained while reviewing the security camera footage again. Right after you posted about the Grand Canyon trip, she came to plant this device. The timing was perfect. But why? Perhaps your and Michael's existence. Sarah chose her words carefully. Got in the way of the future she envisioned. From the corner of the shop came the sound of Michael's cheerful laughter. He was showing his Lego car to the young mechanic. Tears fell from Linda's eyes at the sight of his innocence. A search warrant has already been issued, Sarah announced firmly. We'll search Catherine Morgan's home and workplace. We'll investigate her phone's location data, email history, everything. Just then, Sarah's phone rang. After a brief conversation, she turned to Linda. I just heard from forensics at the scene. They found fingerprints on the device planted in the tire. Combined with the dashcam footage, this will be conclusive evidence. Tom spoke quietly. If you had continued driving to the Grand Canyon. He didn't finish his sentence, but everyone could imagine. A tire suddenly bursting in the middle of the highway. A car losing control. Linda couldn't stop trembling. We'll request an arrest warrant immediately, Sarah said resolutely. She's already an attempted murder suspect with sufficient evidence. Outside the shop, forensics vehicles had begun arriving. Technicians in white coats started collecting evidence. Though the spring sunlight remained bright, dark clouds loomed in Linda's heart. Sarah began giving orders on the phone again. Distribute the suspect's photo to all departments. Increase surveillance at airports and bus terminals. Suddenly, Linda's phone rang. She caught her breath at the name displayed on the screen. It was James. Sarah immediately stood beside Linda, ready to record the call. Hello. Linda's voice trembled. Linda. I heard Catherine left work early. She seemed to know about your trip. James's voice was clearly agitated. James, we're with the police right now. A sharp intake of breath could be heard on the other end. The police. What's going on? Catherine, with our car. Linda's voice caught. No way. James's voice shook. She had been acting strange lately. When Michael came up in conversation, she would suddenly go quiet, but I never thought. Mr. James, Sarah took over the phone. This is Detective Sarah Martinez from Phoenix PD. Do you know Catherine Morgan's current whereabouts? No, but I know places she frequents. Please tell us everything. In the interrogation room at Phoenix Police Headquarters, Catherine Morgan sat quietly under the fluorescent lights. Her makeup was perfect and her expensive clothes immaculate as usual, but her eyes held a different light now. She had been arrested in the parking lot of a high-end supermarket near Scottsdale. Surprisingly, she hadn't resisted arrest. It was as if she had already accepted everything. Detective Sarah Martinez placed a piece of paper on the desk. It was a printout of Linda's Facebook page. You checked it every day, didn't you? Sarah's voice was calm but held a sharp edge. Catherine nodded silently. What did you think when you saw yesterday's post? I thought it was perfect. Catherine's voice was surprisingly steady. I checked social media every day when I saw Linda's post. And the destination? There's only one route to the Grand Canyon. I thought the timing was perfect. Catherine's lips trembled slightly. This was premeditated. Every time I saw the photos of father and son posted on social media, my chest would hurt. I wanted to erase it all. The air in the interrogation room froze. Sarah quietly continued taking notes. From the beginning, Michael. He was in the way. Catherine's voice suddenly turned cold. James always talked about that child. Every weekend was visitation. Always took time off for birthdays. Even on our important anniversaries, he would change plans if that child had a baseball game. She stared at the smartphone on the desk. The screen showed a photo of James and Michael smiling at the baseball field. My plan was perfect. Using the maintenance knowledge I learned from my brother, making sure no one would notice. But Mr. Brown noticed, Sarah stated quietly. Catherine's expression twisted slightly. Yes, who would have thought there'd be such a skilled mechanic right by the road? In the next room, Linda and James watched through soundproof glass. James's face was pale, his hands trembling. What have I? His voice was hoarse. I should have noticed. Linda stood silently beside him. She couldn't understand Catherine's madness either. But as a mother, she painfully understood the distorted form of love lurking in its depths. In the interrogation room, Catherine's confession continued. We were supposed to build a perfect family. Her voice gradually rose. But that child and his former wife's existence, always getting in the way. The future I envisioned. So you made it look like an accident. Yes. The tire suddenly bursting in the middle of the highway. Then. Catherine let her words trail off. Michael is only 8 years old. A hint of emotion crept into Sarah's voice. I know, tears welled up in Catherine's eyes. But if he wasn't there, James could have been mine alone. We could have. Just then, hurried footsteps were heard in the hallway. A young detective entered with documents. Detective Martinez, We found Catherine Morgan's psychiatric records. Sarah reviewed the documents and let out a deep sigh. Severe obsessive personality disorder, she muttered under her breath. In the next room, James nearly collapsed at those words. Linda quickly moved to support him. Michael is. James's voice trembled. Our son is safe. That's all that matters. In the break room down the hall, Michael waited with a female officer. He didn't yet fully understand the gravity of the situation. Still, he seemed to sense that something serious was happening. Are Mom and Dad okay? He would occasionally ask anxiously. Linda couldn't break down in front of her son. She took a deep breath and turned to James. How do we explain this to Michael? James looked up, tears glistening in his eyes. Let's be honest with him. But about Catherine's illness, we'll wait until he's older. Linda nodded. In the interrogation room, Catherine's questioning continued. Her phone revealed numerous photos obsessively taken of Linda and Michael's daily life, playing in the park, school drop-offs and pick-ups, shopping trips. Everything showed an abnormal fixation. You will be charged with attempted murder, Sarah stated firmly. However, depending on the results of your psychiatric evaluation. Catherine nodded quietly. Her face no longer wore its everyday mask. Only deep exhaustion and something like relief showed through. It's over, isn't it? She whispered. Sarah stood up and left the interrogation room. Linda and James were waiting in the hallway. Would you like to talk to Michael now? She asked. They looked at each other and nodded. What they needed now was an honest conversation with their son. It might be difficult, but it would be their first step in overcoming this crisis. Michael, Linda placed her hand on the break room door. Mom and Dad need to explain something to you. Spring sunlight streamed through the police station windows. Somehow, that light looked different now. 1 year later, a Little League baseball game was being played at North Phoenix Preparatory Academy's field. The stands echoed with parents' cheers while children's energetic voices carried across the ground. Go, Michael! Linda's voice rang out from the stands. James sat beside her. Though they had maintained a good relationship after their divorce, their bond had grown even stronger since that incident. Linda, Dad's coming to watch the baseball game today. She couldn't forget the sparkle in Michael's eyes when she told him that morning. Yay! I can show Dad my new moves. Her son had jumped up excitedly. Over the past year, Michael had grown remarkably. Though it took time to heal the emotional wounds, with his parents' love and counselors' support, he had gradually begun to look forward again. Look, it's Michael's turn, James said softly. Michael stood at bat. Now 9 years old, he had grown a bit taller. As their son faced the pitcher with determination, both parents leaned forward instinctively. Michael's bat connected with the pitcher's throw. With a sharp crack, the ball flew into the outfield. Yes! As the stands erupted in cheers, Michael sprinted to first base. Just then, Linda's phone vibrated. It was a message from Detective Sarah Martinez. Catherine will be receiving treatment at a specialized facility. Linda exhaled quietly. I see. At the trial, Catherine's severe mental illness had been taken into consideration. Though she couldn't escape the attempted murder charge, the sentence focused on treatment. She's showing good response to counseling, Detective Sarah continued. Her primary physician is hopeful about her recovery. Linda looked up at the sky. 1 year since that day. Her anger and fear had somehow transformed into deep sadness and a kind of quiet understanding. After the game, the three of them stopped at Denny's. Sitting in their usual booth, Michael excitedly recounted the game. James, Linda spoke quietly. Thank you for staying in touch with our son like this. No, I should be thanking you, James replied sincerely. As long as I can see Michael's smile, that's all I need. Outside the window, spring winds gently swayed the street trees. A familiar aroma wafted from the pancakes on the table. Hey Dad, will you come next Saturday too? Michael looked up at his father with hopeful eyes. Of course, James gently patted his son's head. Then, Michael suddenly said, as if remembering something, Hey Mom, let's go to the Grand Canyon together again, all three of us. Linda and James were momentarily speechless. But seeing the expectation and trust in their son's eyes, Linda smiled. Yes, let's make new memories this time. Michael's face lit up. Yay! I can climb up to bigger rocks this time. Maybe so, James laughed softly. But safety first, okay? On their way home, the herbs planted on Linda's apartment balcony swayed in the sunset light. Just like last year, the new leaves they had just replanted with Michael showed signs of fresh life. Linda gazed at the new photo she had hung on her wall. A picture of the three of them taken after last month's baseball game. Their smiling faces pressed close together captured their new kind of family. The scars from the past had made them stronger. Those memories might never fade completely. But it was because they overcame that pain that they could appreciate their current happiness. Mom, Dad, I love you. Linda nodded firmly at Michael's bedtime words. We'll always be together. Outside the window, stars began twinkling in the Phoenix night sky. Like lights of new hope, they quietly illuminated their future. Tom Brown's repair shop continues to watch over the community's safety as always. The old sign had been repainted, with the words, "From Father to Son," added. Detective Sarah Martinez sometimes thinks about this case. In her 20-year career, few cases had left such a deep impression. She still occasionally checks on Linda and her son. Perhaps everyone is starving for love, Sarah mused one day. But when that love becomes distorted, it's the loved ones who get hurt the most. Still, seasons turn. A new season was beginning, one that would heal old wounds and nurture new growth.